Lakehead, where Fort William and Port Arthur form one of the nation's youngest and fastest growing industrial centers. Ideally located on the northwest shore of Lake Superior and guarded by Nana Bijou, the sleeping giant, the Twin Cities mark the geographic center of our nation. Yet only Montreal and Vancouver exceed them as the country's busiest port. Its 37 miles of protected waterfront are dotted with 25 giant grain elevators, and here the golden wealth of Canada's prairie provinces finds its chief outlet to world markets. 4 large pulp and paper mills, in addition to many other industrial enterprises, also share the expanding Lakehead skyline. Here too is offered a variety of natural beauty, including the Niagara of the North, the picturesque and power-producing Kakabeka Falls. Port Arthur's Boulevard Lake offers an ideal summer playground. For winter fun, it's the snowy slopes of Mount McKay, scene of the 1960 Canadian Nordic Ski Championships. And during the first week in March of this year, interest is centered on another important sporting event, the Canadian Curling Championship for the Macdonald Brier tanker. Long before the first flag went up, right from the day the invitation was formally accepted at the 1959 championships at Quebec City, the Lakehead Committee was working on its first playoffs. But now it's opening day, and the marching pipe band sets the tempo as the parade heads for the Fort William Gardens. The colorful and always welcome Shriners are on hand, lending a carnival atmosphere to the proceedings. Members of the Canadian Legion march along to watch another kind of battle, one which will decide the top curling rink in the country. One of the outstanding floats in the parade was this one carrying a gigantic curling stone. Guarded by a bevy of pretty girls, this rock weighs in slightly over T-weight, about 3,200 pounds. The nation's schoolboy curlers are represented by this group of young men from Northern Ontario. And they get a big welcome. From Canada's evergreen playground, the BC rink makes its appearance. Saskatchewan sends the defending Richardson rink from Regina. Northern Ontario is represented by the Granite Curling Club in Sudbury. Not to be outdone by the men, the Port Arthur Girls Pipe Band marches smartly along, keeping the skirl of the pipe sounding through the streets and across the waters of Lake Superior. The Lakehead Lady Curlers are also on hand to show just how well the game is enjoyed by the gentler sex. The ladies also manage to poke a little good-natured fun at themselves. A giant replica of the tankard passes by, and the float also carries the message that curling is a sport that binds our nation together, a symbolic reminder readily apparent as curlers from the Atlantic to the Pacific march in the mile-long parade. From Kentville, Nova Scotia they come. Canada's 10th and newest province sends its champions from Goose Bay, Labrador. According to this, the legendary exploits of the mighty Paul Bunyan would seem to have included inventing the game of curling, which might come as a bit of a surprise to any number of Scotsmen. Finally, the arrival at the gardens where the huge curling stone stood guard throughout the week-long activities. Always an impressive part of any Brier is the formal entry into the rink as the curlers are piped down the ice. The 2 mayors are among the dignitaries present as the Lakehead Playdown chairman Dick Symes welcomes the curlers. Local committee vice chairman Len Cameron holds the broom as Sam Rothschild, acting president of the Dominion Curling Association, delivers the first stone. The 1960 playoffs are officially underway. This is the moment everyone has been waiting for. This is the World Series of Curling for members of every curling rink in the land. 11 rinks competing for this championship of champions. Each rink is a winner in his own right, and they're here to determine a national champion in curling's premier showcase. The road to the playoffs began back in December when club championships were held. If a rink managed to succeed there, they moved on to the district competitions and then to the regionals. If they managed to survive that elimination, they went forward to the very tough provincial playdowns. And now the Twin Cities play host to these winners as they meet for the Canadian Curling Championship. From the eastern provinces of Newfoundland and Nova Scotia, we see samples of shot making of true championship caliber. For the first time in the history of this event, a team from Labrador represents Newfoundland. The Nova Scotia rink plays out of the Glooscap Curling Club in Kentville. The 1951 championship was won in 10 straight matches by a team from this same club. And here to report the results of the daily action, members of the press, radio, and television cover every aspect of the colorful proceedings. The Canadian Curling Championships have been held in practically every province from Nova Scotia to British Columbia. And everywhere it goes, it generates new interest in the game. New curling clubs spring up in its wake. Since its inception, the number of curling clubs in Canada registered with the Dominion Curling Association has tripled. The New Brunswick father and son combination of the Maybes, Harold Sr. and Jr., provide the spectators and their competition with some exciting moments. Curling is one of the fastest growing sports in the country, numbering close to 500,000 enthusiastic supporters. People from all walks of life and from all age levels are attracted by the sounds of swishing brooms, roar of a rock, and the friendly type of competition. Not only is the Canadian Championship creating new interest each year, but competition is getting keener all the time. These master strategists and shot makers get better every year. In one draw this year, there was the rarity of 3 13-end games. And in one meeting between 2 prairie rinks, competition was so sharp, they blanked the first 3 ends. Here's Don Groom of Sudbury, always a keen competitor, making his 3rd appearance in Brier competition. Glenn Harper's rink from Duncan, British Columbia, making its 1st appearance. The opportunity to see the world's best curlers in action has made this event a major spectator sport. In contrast to the handful of people who watched the first Brier in 1927, today thousands attend the week-long event, attracted by the colorful show and impressive records of such former champions as the Hudsons, the Manahans, the Campbells, the Halls, the Walshes, the Baldwins, and now the defending champions, the Richardsons from Regina. They are trying for their 2nd consecutive Canadian Curling Championship. Both Saskatchewan and Alberta share a 4-win, no-loss record as they play the 6th end of this match. The score is 2-1 in favor of Alberta. They blanked the first 3 ends, Saskatchewan picked up a single in the 4th, and Alberta 2 in the 5th end. With 2 Alberta stones counting, Arnold Richardson, the Saskatchewan 3rd, plays an in-turn takeout. His shot barely misses the guard, removes the front stone, and rolls out of play. Without the advantage of last rock in this end, Stu Beagle, the Alberta skip, wants to draw his first rock in behind the guard. His front end, Ron Baker and Fred Story, carefully follow his stone into the house. Arnold gives his skip, Ernie Richardson, the ice for a draw to the Alberta stones. His shot bends as it passes the hog line. And nestles in there to lie one. A quick look at the situation, and the Alberta foursome decide to play the takeout with the possibility of a double. The angle is perfect, and when the rocks come to rest, Alberta is lying 4. With one stone to come, it's up to Ernie to relieve the pressure. He elects to play the percentages, the draw or the rub. All 4 Richardsons stick close to this rock. The weight is perfect. He gets the rub to count 1, tying the score at 2-all. They broke the tie by picking up 2 in the next end, 1 in the 8th and 2 in the 10th. Alberta was held to a single in the 9th. With the score 7-3 for Saskatchewan in the 11th end, their skip's first rock rolls on the takeout to lie 2. The Alberta team hails from Calgary, the home of the Stampede. In 1961, this friendly city of the foothills is to play host to the 11 provincial entries in the Canadian Curling Championship. With this first rock, the Alberta skip plays a draw to the Saskatchewan shot. This is Skip Beagle's second appearance in the Macdonald Brier, having competed previously in 1949. Ernie Richardson takes the opposite turn with narrow ice for the takeout shot. This 28-year-old skip displays the type of accurate shot making that helped his team win the 1959 championship at Quebec City. The Alberta skip takes the same ice as his first shot and plays the draw. His in-turn is a shade wide. Saskatchewan count 1 to make the score 8-3 in their favor. The Richardsons go on to victory and remain undefeated. A close battle exists between Quebec and the favorites from Saskatchewan. 3 ends earlier, the Eastern team was down 5-2. They picked up a 2 in the 8th and a single in the 9th to tie the match at 5-all. In this 10th end, their skip's first rock barely misses taking 2 Saskatchewan stones. The Richardsons have last rock in this important tie-breaking end. With 1 counting, they play for a draw to the far side of the house. The reliable Saskatchewan skip safely places his shot in the 8-foot, where it's almost impossible for Ted Hunt, the Quebec skip, to remove the 2 stones. Third, Gordy Cape gives Ted the broom for a takeout. Although Ted started his curling career in Saskatchewan, it's obvious he has no loyalty ties as he sharply removes the counter. With Quebec lying second shot, Ernie Richardson chooses to ignore it and plays the draw. Perfect T-weight, drawing inside to count 2 and go ahead 7-5. The play in the 11th end has been similar to that of the previous end, each team making shot for shot until a Quebec miss gives the Saskatchewan skip an opportunity to draw his first stone into the house to lie 2. Even with last rock in his favor, Ted Hunt is faced with the problem of making his last 2 stones count, the shots that would once again tie the match. A fine takeout with an equally fine roll. The Hunt Rink has twice won the Governor General's Trophy, held annually in the nation's capital. Ernie plays firm takeout weight with his last rock. It's wide, however, he gets enough of the Quebec stone to remove it and go out himself. Now, how would you play this next shot? It's the 11th end, you're down 2, and your opponents are the defending champions. There's only one form of strategy to follow. Without the slightest hesitation, Ted Hunt blanks the end to give his team the advantage of last rock coming home. In the 12th end, Quebec is lying 2 with 6 stones to come. Arnold Richardson plays for a possible double takeout, but settles for 1. With the same ice, Ted Hunt asks his third Gordy Cape for a repeat of the last shot. The hit and a roll out of the house, which sees Quebec's victory hopes fade. In previous ends on this sheet of ice, both teams have experienced misses with their takeouts. So Ernie plays this shot with caution. He has just the right amount of weight to curl in to take the shot. Saskatchewan now lie 1 with 3 stones to come. 2 of these belong to Quebec, the 2 rocks they need to remain in contention. In order to protect this next shot from the accurate firing of the Saskatchewan skip, Ted Hunt plays a draw to the shot rock to use it as backing. Ralph Hoppy and Art Lamb follow the stone into the house. There's little hope now for the Easterners as Ernie sets his sights on the blue stone in the 4-foot. The match is over, and the defending champions add another victory to their record. A win that was well challenged, bringing many a thrilling moment to the spectators in the gardens. Having posted victories over their western opponents, Saskatchewan continues its play against a string of eastern teams, and in this draw meet Jake Edwards and his Ontario foursome from Kingston. The Richardsons are ahead 1-0 in the 3rd end as Ernie's first shot makes the single and barely misses the double as the stone on the far side remains fighting the 12-foot. The Ontario skip attempts a draw with his first rock that would leave him lying 3. Joe Corky and George Bennington sweep his stone to the front of the 12-foot. The Saskatchewan skip's last rock slides by, and for the first time in 7 matches, a team has the opportunity to score more than 2 points in one end against the Richardsons. Ontario take advantage of the situation as Jake Edwards makes his last rock count to score a big 4 and go ahead 4-1. By taking strategy and shot making in their stride and never letting up for a moment, Ontario picked up 4 more points to Saskatchewan's 2, making the score 8-3 in the 9th end. With his second stone, Arnold Richardson misses his attempt at a raised takeout. With Skip's rocks to come, Ontario is lying 2nd and 3rd shot. This eastern entry provided much of the color and drama for this curling classic of the year. The Richardsons have last rock advantage in this end, and it looks as if they're going to need it. Ernie is trying to save his stone by playing the draw to the Ontario shot. His attempt doesn't quite come off as his shot slides by. 4 heads are better than 1 as the Ontario team discuss strategy. In complete agreement, they decide to take out the Saskatchewan stone and leave the house wide open for Ernie's last rock. Sound thinking, For if they can limit the Richardsons' deadly scoring power to singles, they are assured of a victory. Once again, Saskatchewan is faced with a house full of red stones. Without hesitation, Ernie asks Arnold for narrow ice and plays quiet weight. In perfect unison, Garnet and West display rhythmic sweeping form. A single for Saskatchewan. The score after 9 ends, 8-4 for Ontario. The Richardsons pick up another point in the 10th. Here in the 11th, an interesting house situation has developed as Bob Elliott, the Ontario third, delivers his last stone. Bob started curling 21 years ago with the Kingston Curling Club, the club that played host to the 1957 Macdonald Brier competitors. With the same ice as his previous shot, the Saskatchewan skip attempts the takeout with the hope of a slight roll. The ice isn't bending with anything over draw weight, so Jake Edwards takes narrow ice and plays back ring weight for the takeout. His front end gives a little assistance, and he pushes the Saskatchewan stone through the house. By just skimming past that front red rock, Ernie can take 2 Ontario stones and end up lying 2. He has to be accurate. There is little, if any, room for error. Third, Bob Elliott narrows down the ice for his skip's last shot. If at this point the spectators felt that they have had their share of thrilling curling action, this is a bonus. A remarkable double takeout to count 3. Ontario go on to win and become the only team to defeat Saskatchewan. In the 8th draw, all eyes were on this Manitoba-Ontario game. These two teams share a 3-way tie with Saskatchewan for first place. It's the last end, with Ontario leading by a 9-8 score. Manitoba has a rock at the back of the 12-foot and is trying to get one out in front in order to draw in behind it. Ontario is keeping the front open, for they have last rock in this exciting end. The Manitoba third, George Laudrum, signals skip Max Scales to place his first stone in front. John McCorrister and Lloyd Goodman sweep the Westerners' rock into position. Once again, Ontario play to remove the guard and have their own stone rolled to the side. As the guard passes through the house, it comes close to taking the shot along with it. Manitoba play for a draw to the front of the 12-foot. To remain in contention, they must pick up 2 to win the match. An excellent example of shot making. Jake Edwards has to make this draw shot to assure a victory for Ontario. A few anxious moments as the Kingston curlers escort his last rock in to count 1. This tremendous victory breaks the 3-way tie, leaving Saskatchewan and Ontario in first place. Since they have the bye in the last draw, Saskatchewan have only 2 matches remaining. Ontario has 3 to play, and this prompted the question, can Ontario stand the pace? They win their next match against Northern Ontario, but with 2 games to go, 4 young curlers from Prince Edward Island come up with the answer. The Maritime rink has a commanding lead of 6-0 in the 3rd end. Skip Doug Cameron and 3rd George Dillon watch closely as the Ontario skip attempts a takeout through the port with his first rock. Jake Edwards' shot is light and wicks the guard. This is the third time that the 21-year-old Prince Edward Island third has played in Brier competition. Skip Cameron, with a similar record, displays a smooth, graceful, sliding delivery. As his last stone crosses the hog line, Saunders and Llewellyn supply sweeping assistance. This situation would present a problem for any skip. After careful consideration, the undaunted Ontario team attempt a raised takeout. Edwards comes up with a remarkable shot, but to little avail. For Prince Edward Island finally win this match to destroy Ontario's bid for national honor. During the final draws, it was apparent that Saskatchewan's loss to Ontario was to be their only defeat, as team after team toppled to their championship style. Their calculated strategy, proficient shot making, and overall team unity earns them the competitive record of 9 victories with only 1 loss, and the 1960 Canadian Curling Championship. The city of Regina, the province of Saskatchewan, and all of Canada are proud of the 4 Richardsons as they line the winner's circle during the closing ceremonies of this national curling event. On behalf of Macdonald Tobacco Incorporated, Mr. David M. Stewart makes the presentation of the coveted Macdonald Brier tankard to the winners. In turn, he congratulates skip Ernie Richardson, third Arnold, second Garnett, and lead West Richardson. Champions they were a year ago, champions once again. Manitoba and Alberta share second place honors, each with an 8-win, 2-loss record. Brier trustee Ross Hostone presents the Manitoba team with their prizes and congratulates them for their fine effort during the week's curling. The Alberta team receives awards from Earl Bourne, chairman of the 1955 playoffs in Regina. The officials, curlers, and fans prepare to bring the 1960 playdowns to a close. Now, the hopes and aspirations of curlers from coast to coast focus on the city of Calgary, Alberta, the scene of next year's competition for the Macdonald Brier tankard.